This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to a brand new week here on Anfield Agenda and Monday's Late Night Agenda. We have a lot to go through tonight. Of course, we'll have a look ahead to the Reds game at the Stadium of Light against Sunderland. A quick reminder on that one, it is an 8:15 kickoff, a little bit later than normal, so just keep that in mind. We'll also be discussing the lack of squad depth, which appears to be one of the major gripes, which I think is more than fair, so we'll discuss that a little bit tonight. We'll talk about Mohamed Salah's future. We'll have a conversation around the potential of the likes of, well, more centre-backs, shall we say, coming in through the doors for the Reds. The likes of the Borussia Dortmund centre-back has been brought up, Nico Schlotterbeck, today. We're going to discuss Alexis McAllister and some words from his father, and of course lots more over the course of the next, 90 minutes or so. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick reminder, the preview for the game against Sunderland, that will be out tonight at 10:45. So if you want to have a little look at that, maybe give an opinion on the team that I've selected for it, let me know your thoughts. Of course, always much appreciated. It's great to be back with you. This is my first Late Night Agenda back since I took last week off, and been looking forward to it all day, to be honest with you. So really ready to go and lots to get through tonight. We're going to run through some of the stats around Jules 1. We're going to be talking about how many teams, or how many fouls teams get away with before the players start getting booked, and lots more. But the poll that we've kicked off tonight with is, do you think Liverpool lacks squad depth? And the reason that we're kicking off it is Beth Lindup, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, is a journalist, maybe working with the Echo or another publication. But anyway, Beth posted something today and Connor sent it on to me, and I thought it would make for an interesting jumping off point. So Beth posted, so many problems for Liverpool at present, but really think their squad depth is a big issue. They have an 11 that can beat anybody on their day, but the difference in benches yesterday was glaring. Injuries not helping, of course, but the lack of Liverpool game changers is hurting them. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment from Beth, and certainly, we focused a lot on Arne Slot in recent times on here, but the conversation should extend to those who make the decisions about bringing in players, Hughes, Edwards and the like. So let's do that this evening and have a conversation around that. It is a tough one because I'm, again, not going to sit here and try to say to anybody that I wasn't anything other than really happy with the transfer window in the summer. But as the season has gone on, it is pretty clear to say, yeah, there is a lack of squad depth there, and injuries, of course, as Beth said, haven't helped, and that's more than fair to say. But it really did feel like, when you look back at the summer now, it was kind of a one in, one out, and we didn't really build any strength in depth. You can go through each position and probably find two players in it, but again, are they two players the manager's willing to use? That's another question. So tonight, I thought that would be an interesting jumping off point for us to start. Emmett, how are you, dude? Said, evening, Craig. Great to have you back and hope that you are well. Yeah, I feel much better, mate. Thank you. Feel much more like myself. I've been just basically struggling with nerve pain in my shoulder since October, and it just wore me down. But a bit of a breakaway makes me feel a lot better. Thank you, mate, and appreciate you looking out for me. Right, so happy you're back, Craig. I've missed you, and excited that you're back. I hope your family are well. We're good, thank you, Kaz. Yeah, can't complain at all. Life's not too bad at the minute. If the Reds were winning, that would make life a little bit better. So, yeah, look, it's tough going, isn't it, for everyone this season? We're not getting the performances or the results that we expected, and yesterday was probably a beautiful encapsulation of our season in one mad 90-minute game. The end of that game is well, it's the epitome of chaos, wasn't it? You know, for not for 1 second when Dom scored that free kick did I think we weren't going to get something from the game. I was quite confident we were going to hold on and win it, but I certainly didn't think after that we would go on to lose the game. So that really stung yesterday for a lot of people, and we probably didn't deserve to lose it, if the truth be told. It was one of those games where I don't think anybody could have argued with a draw, but unfortunately for us, we did find a way to lose it, and now the game on Wednesday, well, that takes on even more significance, doesn't it? We're currently 4 points off 5th place, 5 points off 4th place. United and Chelsea, I think, play tomorrow, so they have a day ahead of us, so they could be even further ahead by the time we go to the Stadium of Light to take on Sunderland. So, it's tough going, like I said, but can't feel sorry for ourselves. Just got to dust ourselves down, go again, and hope for a better result midweek. So, let's get going with an interesting story from Graham Bailey. And Graham said that Curtis Jones will demand firm assurances over his long-term future at Liverpool before the summer, with the midfielder increasingly concerned that the club are preparing to move him on, as team talk sources confirm interest from Spurs and others. So we know that Curtis Jones in the January window was linked with a move to Spurs, was linked with a move to Inter Milan, but we also know that Curtis Jones' contract is up at the end of next season. So there are some difficult decisions for the club to make, and I wonder what direction this will go in. It doesn't really give us much more information as to maybe what the club are thinking and what Curtis are looking for, but I've said to you guys over the past few months probably that my belief is that Liverpool will eventually move on a central midfielder to make way in the squad for a defensive midfielder, and I've always thought the most likely candidate was Alexis McAllister, and I still do. But Curtis Jones could be one that Liverpool feel like they need to move on. But I think the real question here is, why have we got another player who is running down his contract and another local boy running down the contract, and at the end of the season we'll just have one more to go? That isn't really great squad planning, and again leads into the conversation we kicked off tonight with about squad depth. So, give us your thoughts on that one. Do you think Curtis Jones will still be a Liverpool player at the end of the summer transfer window? It would feel wrong not having a Scouser in the team, not having a Scouse heartbeat in there, but again, I can understand if Curtis Jones maybe wants more assurances of first team football, and the manager, whoever that may be at the time now, Arne Slot, maybe just doesn't feel that he can give them those guarantees. One thing I would say, and one thing I've always said, is that under Arne Slot, Curtis Jones has come on and improved as a footballer. He's one of the few I would say Arne has probably improved since he's been here. So let's wait and see what happens with this. But your thoughts on it certainly ones that I'm interested in. So do let me know what you think. Paro 6, how are you, mate? Nothing makes Monday better than a Craig live. Thank you, bro. Really appreciate you coming in and for being with us as a member for 13 months as well. Really, really do appreciate you. Right, let's get into the chat and see how the chat are feeling about the Curtis situation. More Scout youth players going. Get Slobbot out now, said Mr. Lego. Keep Jones, get rid of Gakpo, McAllister. The McAllister one is an interesting one, because, look, I love Alexis McAllister. I really, really do. I think he's a wonderful footballer. But this season, I just haven't been impressed with him from the same viewpoint as I would have been in other seasons. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I am being a bit overly critical. But this season, he just doesn't seem to be, what's the word I'm looking for, as energetic. He seems to look a little bit more jaded. I know he came into the season playing catch-up. I think he was coming in off the back of a bit of an injury or something, but he just doesn't seem to be himself this season. I'll give you a quote from his father, actually, when I believe he was probably asked about the idea of Alexis moving on, and he was speaking to Win All Sports, who I think are an Argentinian media outlet. This was his father speaking to them. He said, "I have to be prudent. He plays for Liverpool now. In the future, if the opportunity arises and it's appropriate, he'll have to make his own decisions. What I can say at the moment is that Alexis is focused on Liverpool and the current season. Alexis is very happy and comfortable at Liverpool," which is always good to hear. But there's, much like Luis Diaz, there's always been a little bit of noise around the idea that maybe Alexis would fancy a spell in La Liga at some point in his career. And if Liverpool are to move on a central midfielder, I think that he could be the one to make way personally. But again, not trying to make out like any inside information here, just my view as a fan. Stevie boy, how are you, bro? Always lovely to see you. Said, talking about contracts, are you confident Dom stays? I think I am. Yeah. I feel like, and again, it's hard to know for certain because you're on the outside and you're just a fan. But you look at Dom and he seems like a happy footballer. Seems really, he knows he's loved at Liverpool and he seems like a captain in waiting. So I certainly hope Liverpool want to keep him. I'm sure that they do. I know that there was some story doing the rounds from, I think, a Hungarian publication that he was looking for about 300 grand a week. Now, again, I can't speak to that. But what I can say is he's been one of the few bright lights this season, hasn't he? One of the few players who really have delivered. I can't help but thinking, though, over the last couple of seasons, obviously we had Trent on free kick duty and he was pretty good at it. But Dom has just taken it to a different level. Like this season, when Dom stands over a free kick, you're nearly expecting it to hit the back of the net. I mean, when I see Dom stepping up for free kicks these days, it's almost as if we're getting a penno. That's the likelihood of Dom putting it in the back of the net. That one last night was just wow. It didn't deserve to be on the losing side of a game, did it? It was absolutely exceptional. And even just the technique, the way he hit it, it was... I've seen it from so many angles, as I'm sure you all have. Just sat back and enjoyed it. It was phenomenal. So yeah, I hope he stays, Stevie boy. I think he feels like a settled player to me, but again, you never know. It is football. But to me, I do think we'll run it as a poll actually in a little bit. Surely, if you're Liverpool and you're looking to tie down players, he's going to be one of the first ones on your list. There's certainly been plenty of reports that Liverpool have had, what's the word I'm looking for? Loose or tentative, that's probably a fairer word, tentative conversations with the likes of Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai about staying on at the club and extending. I think those three gents, if I'm not mistaken, contracts are all up in 2028. So, yeah, I hope he stays because, God, we love him, don't we? Pyro said I would comment on Jones, but Tree Liquor, Dominic Midnight comes for me. All jokes aside, awesome back, mate. Missed you. Thank you. What was this? Missed that glorious face, King. Thank you. Appreciate you. Very kind of you. Look, I missed all of you guys while I was away as well, but I'm not going to lie. I definitely needed the break. I feel all the better for it since I've returned. Certainly today, I really, really feel like myself again, which is great. For me anyway. Maybe not for others. Right, let's drop back in and see how the chat is doing. Yes, R.I.P. to Mo's grandfather. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That was reported earlier on, and of course, I know you'll all join me in sending our condolences and our love to Salah and his family. Ishmael Mahmood posted to say, sad news, Mohamed Salah's grandfather has passed away, and he writes, my sincere condolences to him and his family, which of course is a sentiment that we all echo here. Yeah. Hope he's okay, as well as can be when you lose a grandfather. It's crazy. I never knew either of my grandfathers, but my two grandmothers were such important figures in my life and certainly helped make me the person that I am. And I'm sure Mohamed Salah's grandfather was somebody very close to his heart as well. So sending all of our love and best wishes to him and his family. Hey, Michael, how are you, dude? Said, hey, Craig, hope you're well, mate. We should have kept Diaz and sold Gakpo to Bayern. Diaz showed versus Hoffenheim, scored a hat-trick and got 2 penalties, which Kane scored both. The thing about that is, though, he wanted out. Or at least Liverpool weren't willing to get to a number that would have made Luis Diaz happy to stay. I'm not going to try to rewrite history. I understood why we sold Luis Diaz when we did. But what I didn't understand was not bringing in another alternative, another option. We assumed that we were going to see Rio Engamoa get more game time this season, but that hasn't been the case. So what we've instead ended up with is Cody Gakpo or having to shoehorn somebody like Wirtz out on the left-hand side. It's tough because, look, you can clearly see we are missing somebody dynamic like Luis Diaz, like Sadio Mane, on the left-hand side, but it is what it is. We are where we are right now, and Again, I guess just goes back to that lack of squad depth that we kicked off tonight talking about. Leach said, Luis Diaz is loving the Bundesliga, 20 appearances, 13 goals, 12 assists. Boy, I miss Lucho. Do you know what the funny thing is? I remember when that deal was going through, lots of Bayern fans wanted nothing to do with Diaz. Lots of them thought he was just going to be another pampered, over-the-top, overpriced ex-Premier League player. And very quickly they were learning why we all love them so much, because he does have that ability to just make things happen. He's a really dynamic, multifaceted attacking player, and certainly our loss has been Bayern Munich's gain. Leona, how are you, my friend? God, I love a Soboslai free kick. I know, they just hit different. You know, he's no right. I see a lot of people talking about Donnarumma, by the way, last night, and setting up a two-man wall. And look, whilst I was a goalkeeper, nowhere near the level of Gianluigi Donnarumma, I have to say, I probably would have done the same thing as a goalkeeper, because it's that much of a distance out where you think, right, two-man wall, I still get to see the ball. He's 35 yards out. It's fairly central. I'm going to back myself here, that unless he does something absolutely out of this world, I'm going to get this one covered. And, well, it was absolutely out of this world, and there was no saving it, you know. Donnarumma didn't even move off the spot. It was just past him, in off the post. And I think Virgil van Dijk's reaction, as well as Milos Kerke's reaction, says it all. You know, these are professional footballers, and Virgil, he's been there, won the Premier League, won the Champions League, and he's shell-shocked. He's just standing there in awe of that free kick. He just couldn't believe what he was seeing, and I'm sure people inside Anfield couldn't believe it either. He just simply had no right to score from there. He's, it's just absolutely incredible. What a strike it was. Mark Bell said, we'll lose Salah for a few games due to his sad passing of his grandfather, or will we lose Salah? I don't know, Mark, mate. I don't know. Look, one thing I will always say, and, you know, people can call me a hothead and say what they want about me, but you'll never see me not give somebody personal space if they need it. So the likes of Ibrahim Konate when his father passed away, or Mohamed Salah, take as long as you need. You know, each person grieves differently, and each person goes through things in a different way. So some people need a little bit longer, some people need a bit of personal time, absolutely, and I'm sure the club will be more than accommodating. These things probably on a person by person basis, so not for me to say whether Mo will or won't need that time away, but certainly if he does, as a fan from me, nothing but support for the man. You know, it's family's an important part of life. Nothing worse than a guaranteed goal of the month in a game when we went on to lose it. I know, it kind of puts it up there in the dustbin with Daniel Sturridge's goal against Sevilla in the Europa League, Christian Benteke's bicycle against United. It kind of just goes into the dustbin of goals that deserve better than the result in the games where those goals were scored. So, a quick question with regards to a story that's doing the rounds. So, there's a piece from Graham Bailey that said Liverpool are one of the clubs to have made contact with the camp of Newcastle midfielder Sandro Tonali. Does anybody think that that's genuine? Like, that we really are in for Sandro Tonali? Because surely we're not going to knock on Newcastle's door again. I know that he was seemingly offered to Arsenal, or at least a proposal presented from his agent, according to reports, but I just don't see that we're going to go knocking on Newcastle's door again. Certainly they wouldn't want us to, but I don't see it personally. I think if Liverpool are to bring in another midfielder, it'll be likely a Wharton or an Anderson or somebody like that. So yeah, for me, I don't believe it. Great player though, and somebody who, when he was at Brescia, the side he was at in Serie B, excuse me if I'm wrong on that one, but we were certainly linked with him way back when, before he made the breakthrough. But do you know what? Honestly, and Newcastle fans will never probably hear me say this, but I think he owes Newcastle. I really, really do. I think he owes Newcastle for the loyalty that club showed him when he was banned. And I think, another season there is probably called for. But on the other side of it, it's interesting sitting back now watching the Newcastle project from the outside, because there feels like there's some players, and they haven't quite come flatly out and said it, but it almost feels like they don't believe the project has lived up to the vision that they were sold when they made the move there. Isak kind of spoke about it a little bit. Tonali's agent, I think, intimated it a little bit. And it feels like there's some broken promises, or maybe the caliber of players coming through and being brought in hasn't been enough to satisfy the sales pitch that these guys were given when they signed up. Medusa Kate said, we really stood by him. I hope it doesn't end up like the Paqueta situation. Genuinely, you did. Newcastle and their fans and the club, I think, were very understanding of that situation with Sandro Tonali. And this is one of those occasions where I would say, yes, the player probably does have a debt of loyalty for at least another season to Newcastle, but it's football, and we know money talks, so we'll wait and see what happens with it. But I just don't think Liverpool are going to be there personally. Which free kick of Szoboszlai's was better, Arsenal or City? Oh, City for me, mate. City. That City free kick was... Connor sent me it from a few different angles as well, and it in slow-mo. Definitely that one for me. You know, even, you know, remember doing the watch-along, and we were thinking, is this even in shooting territory? Like, this is right on the edge from Shirley. And what do we know? You know, the man, you couldn't have... If you gave him a sniper's rifle and a scope, you probably couldn't have put that ball in a better position. It was absolutely sublime. Here's a question, though. Better than the Declan Rice free kick versus Arsenal, or excuse me, versus Real Madrid. That's a conversation that I've seen come up a little bit today, which is an interesting one. For a team that has a chance of no European football, I doubt we're doing another last summer spending. Do you know what? It's interesting that you bring that up, because a lot of the talk has been about another pretty big spend in the summer. No, I don't know if this is Champions League football dependent, but there certainly has been a lot of conversation around Liverpool going again and having quite an extensive summer transfer window. The problem I would have with that is only, well, what if we end up in a situation again where we're talking about too many changes? It's kind of... It's a difficult one, because there's no denying we need depth. There's no denying we need some more players. But are we going to be in a situation again then where we're catching up? You know, are we writing off another half a season with players settling in again? Or it's a tough one, because there's no denying we could do with some strength and depth. But, you know, we don't want to have another season where we're talking about players bedding in, getting used to the intensity of the Premier League, and only being able to play 60 minutes here until they build it up. That's why I'd hope we'd get a defender in January, you know, to make next summer's potential bedding in process of any players a little bit less daunting. Get a centre-back or a defender in now. And look, I still don't understand why we didn't make the move for Mark Gay. Yes, it may be on the financial aspect of it, but I still think it's a mistake from us. Craig, if we lose to Sunderland, is that the end for Arne? So this leads me to talk about something that I wanted to bring up, but I was trying to figure out how best to bring it up. So a lot of the noises coming from the club seem to be that Arne has credit in the bank. You remember a piece the other day, I think we talked about it, from Jonathan Norcroft, I think it was, of the Times. And in that piece there was, and I'm paraphrasing here, so excuse me, the quote isn't correct, but it's something along the lines of, an Anfield insider said that Arne Slot is professional, he's a good man, he's kind, and a few other bits and bobs, and that nobody has any patience anymore. And it kind of intimated that Liverpool fans are just being impatient a little bit with it. And it made me think for a minute, because if these people think this, right, if somebody inside Liverpool thinks that Liverpool fans are being impatient and they're willing to brief that to a journalist or a couple of journalists, isn't that just the most cowardly bullshit you've ever heard? Because Say what you want about me here on YouTube or any YouTubers, but we say it as we see it, and we don't hide. We're here, we give our opinions, and we stand over them. I've been thinking a lot about this today. This idea of Anfield insiders briefing journalists, it's basically a free-for-all to have a dig at people. Think about it. Let's say, in this instance, Anfield insiders think that Liverpool fans are too impatient and Arne deserves more time. Cool. That could absolutely be true, or it could be absolute bullshit, and it might not exist. I could come on here and say, Anfield insiders have told me that Arne Slot's getting a 10-year contract. But what I've seen a pattern lately is that the insiders and the quotes are becoming an attack on the fans by proxy, with nobody having to own it. So let's just look at that example. If they think Liverpool fans are being impatient, own your comments or stop being a fucking pussy. And this is what winds me up about them. They use these little briefs to say Anfield insiders or a senior Anfield executive said. Well, if the senior Anfield executive feels that strongly, speak up. Stop being a pussy. If that's your opinion, own it. And stop hiding behind journalists. Or journalists need to just stop covering for these fucking clowns. It's as simple as that. I've noticed lately that there's been so many little digs at toxic online fans. But here's the funny thing. If you look at journalists critiquing of social media, what's the one thing that they keep giving out about? What's the one reason that they say provides people the ability to be able to attack people relentlessly without getting into any trouble for it? It's anonymity, right? It's the anonymity of the internet that journalists and others use to say people are attacking good folk. This is the very same thing. It's the very same thing. Because you're not putting a name or a face to any of these comments. They're just faceless people hiding behind a journalist to insult others. That's anonymity as far as I'm concerned. So like I said, you can say what you want about fan content, but when we say shit, we stand over it. And we're here in front of a camera. So, rather than saying the online toxic fans, how about the toxic fuckers hiding behind journalists inside the club who are seemingly willing to slag off their own fans? Something I've been thinking about a little bit today, and I never really joined those dots before. But maybe just pay attention to it. When you're reading articles now and you're seeing senior Anfield sources say, pay attention to what they're saying. And a lot of the time it's they want a narrative to be pushed, but they won't stand over it. Or they want to have a little sly dig at fans or certain sections of a fan base, but they won't come out and say it. It's why I call them cowards. And it's why I will continue to call them cowards. Because if you've got something to say it or shut the fuck up. It's as simple as that. I can come on here and lie to people all day, every day. I could come on and say Anfield sources told me this, that or the other, but I don't do it because I don't need to do it. Sources can be made up as well. I don't take them seriously. Exactly. Of course it can be made up, but then we're getting into the realms of saying that these people are just liars at that point. And as much as I have problems with journalists, I certainly wouldn't start calling them liars. But yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like hiding behind things. If you've got something to say in life, in general, as a rule, say it. Stand up and say it, or your opinion doesn't matter. Because, I could start briefing people to go online and troll anybody if I wanted to, but I never do. Because why would I? I say what I have to say and I stand over my own opinions. It's just something I've been thinking about today. I've never really given it much thought before, but the more I'm paying attention to the narratives that are being pushed out there, a lot of the time it's faceless people being named as a source for something that is used to belittle others. And they're using the very anonymity that they slag off people online for using for being toxic. It's funny that, isn't it? The way we can twist these things to shine a light in another direction as well. United fan, keep doing what you're doing. Love your content. Thank you, Robert, my man. Had a lot of nice United fans coming lately, and I'm wondering, is it kind of, you keep ranting away there, fella, because Liverpool aren't doing great. But look, either way, man, I appreciate you coming in and saying hello. I would wish you well tomorrow, but I wouldn't mean it, and I think you wouldn't respect me, Robert, if I did wish you well. But in all honesty, mate, thank you for dropping in and your kind words. It means a lot. Paro said, would you take Morgan Rogers if it meant losing Maka? No, because if, in my warped mind, the idea of losing Alexis McAllister would be because we need somebody else in a different part of midfield. And the DM is a position that I think most Liverpool fans would say we've neglected for about 18 months. Now, last season, Ryan Gravenberch obviously played the role in a different way and was absolutely exceptional, and we won the league title. But this season, we're seeing that we're a little bit softer in the middle. And I wouldn't be getting rid of Maka to bring in another attack-minded player, because I think we should be bringing in attack-minded players without having to strip back down the squad. But in midfield, I do think, if you just look at the makeup of the amount of central midfielders we have at the club, one going out to facilitate a DM, I don't think would weaken us too much overall. But look, Morgan Rogers is a great player as well. If I'm not mistaken, though, didn't he sign the new contract to Villa recently enough? If I'm wrong on that, apologies. I don't really keep too much up to date on Villa transfers. James Smith, how are you, James? Said, the way I lost my shit when I watched Gakpo ignore Kirkes with an underlapping run fecked me off. We need new wingers, as we lack so much creativity on the wings. Also, what with losing the ball so much? See, I'm in a difficult position with Cody Gakpo, because there are so many aspects of Cody Gakpo's game that I actually really appreciate. I think tactically he's very clever. I think defensively he definitely helps out. He does chip in with his fair share of goals every season. But I can't really push back against the idea that he is sometimes one-dimensional. And certainly isn't somebody to go past people and take them on in the same way you would want from like a Luis Diaz, a Sadio Mane. We hope to see from Rio Engamoa. And that's why I talk about competition on the left. Because there are games and circumstances where I think Cody Gakpo is perfectly fine. But there are other times where I think we just need a little bit more dynamism, a little bit more pace, or the ability to just run at defenders a bit and not be so predictable. Dean, Ryan, how are you, Dino? And thank you, 9 months with us as a member as well, Dean. Appreciate you. Said, how's you and your family, mate? Much love. Good, thank you. Yeah, good. Can't complain. Everyone's healthy and well, so yeah, not too bad. Thank you, bro. Slot ruined my nephew's first trip to Anfield. Now, look, I'll be the first person to sit up here and say the manager needs to go. I think you know that much about me now, Owen. But there's been a failure across the board here as well. You know, when people say it's not all on Slot, it's on the players, there's some truth to that. There definitely is some truth to that. My big gripe with Arne is, one, I don't believe that he's moved with the times this season, and I don't think he's really brought us forward, and I think he's gone away from a style of football that was successful for us and brought us into something that I don't really understand nor feel excited by. But there's no denying, like, we're soft, and our mentality this season has been light years away from the mentality monsters that we've seen, and that I would put at the feet of the manager. I just don't think he's the guy. But there's enough blame to go around. Like, players have to take some accountability as well. Because, you know, it wasn't Arne that came out yesterday, for instance, and gave the penalty away. Or, you know, individual mistakes have cost us this season. And the more I look back at that penalty incident, the one which we gave Manchester City to win the game, I still don't understand why Alisson came out. And look, let's be honest. Whatever we say about Alisson Becker, he has far more credit in the bank than any potential negative we'll ever say about him. He has been nothing short of exceptional and the best goalkeeper in my lifetime in a Liverpool shirt, without a doubt. But lately, he just doesn't seem himself. And some of the things that you used to take for granted from him with his distribution or his decision making are starting to become a little bit more questionable. And I don't understand why he came out for that penalty yesterday, because I don't think there was a need to. If the player controlled the ball with the angle that he was at, I still think standing your ground and standing there fronting him up would give you a better chance. Yeah, just my thoughts on it, because I seen Carragher going in on Alisson on it, and I had to watch it back a few times before I kind of got where Jamie was coming from. But like I said, it's hard to be at all annoyed by Alisson, because he's been just so consistently amazing for us over the years that he's definitely got the credit in the bank. But yeah, I think rush of blood, as Biggie Maul said, is probably the right answer. That halftime show performance last night, I thought it was awful. Yeah, I thought it was truly awful. I should give you some context as to why I thought it was awful. Obviously, I don't speak Spanish, so I can't talk about the lyrics. And I don't know much about Bad Bunny. But there are things I liked about it and things I didn't like about it. The things I liked about it is pride, the message, the positivity, the inclusiveness, and the good positive energy. That I loved about it. And you can see that it was meant about bringing people together, and there was a positive message. But from a production side, I thought it looked cheap, and I didn't really like the flow of it. I felt like there was too much going on at times. That's just my 2 cents on it, though, but I do think there have been mixed reviews on it. For instance, if you look back at other years, like Rihanna, I thought was absolutely exceptional as a visual spectacle and the way it was produced. Last night's one for me just wasn't one that I would put into one that I enjoyed, but like I said, we all have different tastes, don't we? But the message was positive, and in that sense, nothing but love for the man. But yeah, it just wasn't my type of halftime performance, to be honest. How is Arne still in the job? He's definitely, I can't read that out, mate. He's definitely tickling. Let's go with tickling, FSG. I think the truth of it is, he obviously has people inside the club that believe in him. So, in these conversations, I think it's fair to come to the middle sometimes, because yes, I'm at this end of wanting Arne to go, and yes, some other people are at this end of wanting them to stay. But one thing I want to make clear is that I, and any Liverpool fan that I know, it isn't personal. We just don't think he's able to save the situation. Everybody, myself certainly included, is extremely grateful and thankful for the league title last year. And I will still defend, like I defended him, to say I don't think it was as simple as him just having Klopp's team and running with it. I've always tried to give him credit to say I think that they were able to keep players fitter for longer and get us over the line. But the credit in the bank dried up for me, and I don't think a whole season of failure is acceptable, or to give somebody carte blanche. And the thing that's wound me up the most about the whole Arne situation is the revisionism of what was expected this season. And this is, again, something that annoys me so much, because people are free, journalists are free to think I'm toxic or negative, but they never counter the points that we make. Because it isn't acceptable. And the record of results this season have been shocking. How many records have we talked about being broken in a bad sense? Like Corbally Red, who's an account I'm sure most Liverpool fans on X have come across at some point. I don't know the gentleman John behind the account, but he put up a post that said, records Arne Slot has broken at Liverpool, and he said, dare anyone to keep defending him. He said, worst run of any Liverpool manager in 71 years. First Liverpool manager with 5 straight domestic cup defeats since 1953. First time 3 consecutive league losses by 3 or more goals since 1965. Most 90th minute winners conceded in the Premier League season, and we still have 3 months left. Worst 20-game stretch than Roy Hodgson, and first Liverpool manager to lose 19 games in a calendar year, and on track for the worst Premier League title defence in history. And he finishes it by saying Hughes and Edwards need sacking too for backing him. So, this is what I'm saying. For me, the reason that I am thinking it's time for Arne to go is it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's not just one thing. It's a culmination of the mental fatigue we're seeing, the lack of mental resilience, the lack of identity in the style of play, and I really don't think it is just an adjustment period. You know, there is validity to a lot of the points that a lot of these people make. Like, is there some allowance for some adjustment? Of course there is. When you bring in new players from other leagues, you're always allowed for a little bit of adjustment. But we're talking about being 2/3 of the way through a season now. That time for adjustment should be gone. I don't have any sympathy with regards to the injury situation, because I've said this many times as well. You're not utilising your entire squad intentionally, and then you're moaning about injuries. Well, don't have people in the squad that you don't trust to play. Over the last few seasons, you can probably count up yourselves how many times you've looked at our bench and thought, why is he there or he there? Because we know they're not going to be played. And why have we got 2 goalkeepers on it? So for me, it's just been death by 1,000 cuts. And there's been so many things that on their own you can probably excuse. But when you put them all together, it just paints the picture that he ain't getting the job done. And here's the kicker for me. All of these clowns that want to say I'm toxic, I've been doing this 8 years. And I've never, ever called for a manager to be fired until this season. And Arne doesn't have the credit in the bank for me that Jurgen had over the time that he was here, building from nothing to get to where we are. What I see, and my viewpoint, is that we see a manager who's won a league title, that had an identity and a style of play, that has been given money that no other Liverpool manager in my lifetime has been given to improve the team and make sure that the poor title defence we had previously doesn't happen again. And yeah, here we are, and somehow I'm in an argument with a journalist talking about semantics of whether we're 6th or 7th. Either way, it's not good enough. And that's unacceptable. So, are we saying one league title gives you carte blanche to fail constantly? Because I'm not. I wanted this season and you wanted this season, and we hope for this season to be one that builds on the success that we've had, not sets us back again. Because this is what we're being asked to accept. Another step backwards. But then what happens? Let's just play this out for a minute. Let's say Arne stays, we get Champions League football next season, we finish 5th, 4th, we get Champions League football, and we go out and we sign 5 or 6 more players in the summer. Now, if results aren't great at the start of next season, the first thing we're going to hear is it's an adjustment period for these new players coming in, and that the manager needs time to bed them all in, and that it was a shortened summer window with a World Cup, and the excuses write themselves. And I'm just not here for it. Because as Liverpool fans, we waited long enough. We waited 30 years for that league title. We waited to see Liverpool climb that mountain again. And we were promised that this was going to be us building on that success. And we haven't had that. So I don't even see how it's a debate anymore about the manager's position. Now, he isn't on his own. The failures certainly are above him as well. But make no mistake about it, he hasn't been good enough. Excuse me. Will I shout out your uncle Colm? Of course, Colm. How are we? I hope he watches. I hope he watches. If you do watch Colm, thank you. If you don't watch Colm, thank you either way, man. And yeah, fingers crossed for a decent end to the season. Stargirl said Gakpo might be better playing up front beside Hugo. He's a strong, fit guy. He can score goals, and the two of them up front will cause problems. I can understand your viewpoint there. Like, Cody Gakpo knows where the goal is. You got to give him that much. Like, he certainly able to finish. So, right now, I think all suggestions will be entertained to some extent, Stargirl, with what we need, because the old way hasn't been working, and we need to start finding quick solutions before this situation really gets away from us. And I want to make one thing really clear. The reason that I'm so outspoken on wanting change and being so vocal and maybe sometimes over the top with it is because I don't want the situation to become too bad to fix. And then we're in this loop again of having to rebuild, having to take chances on players who might make it but aren't quite there yet, going back to shop and having to bring in, young players who might develop over time. We got to this beautiful point where we're able to bring in a Florian Wirtz, an Alexander Isak. Come on, that's brilliant. And as Liverpool fans, we should be absolutely over the moon with that. But we can't accept going backwards and falling downhill again so quickly. And that's what my fear is. That if we leave this, if Arne leaves this job in the summer, the damage might be done. We may be out of the Champions League. Who knows if we'll get straight back into it or not? Because again, nobody else is going to stand still in the summer. The Manchester Cities, the Arsenals, the United, the Chelseas, they're all going to go again. They're all going to spend again. They're all going to build their squads again. And anything we're doing from a position where we're catching up. So basically, the reason I'm so outspoken is I'd like it to be done before there's no way to save the season. Because we don't want another season written off and then, whoopsies, you know? I just don't want that to be the case. I don't want us to be sitting here in the summer saying, well, no Champions League football next season, which means much harder to negotiate contract extensions with McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, much more difficult to fund and attract the calibre of players we want in. And our own captain, Virgil, said he wants his last season at Liverpool to be in the Champions League as well. And that's before we get into the Mohamed Salah conversation and the finances that come along with missing out on European football. I don't want it to get to that point. So for me, it's a case of, do I think staying with Arne gives us the best chance to get Champions League football? Or do I think bringing in an interim gives us a better chance? That's all it boils down to at the moment for me. And I'm on the side of I think an interim gives us more chance. Because time and time again, we see Arne unable to motivate the lads to go out there and get a result. How bad does it have to get? That's the point. I'm trying tonight so hard to explain myself rather than just make statements. I'm trying to back up what I'm saying with my viewpoint. So if anybody wants to come and have a go and have a pop at me, at least watch what I'm saying and listen to it. And don't just take some ranting little 5-second clip of me saying we're seventh, and think you know everything about us. You know, these views are ones that have been formed over the course of watching the team. And most importantly, one fallacy that Mr. King forgot to address yesterday was they always try to intimate that YouTubers want the clubs to fail because then we'll get opposition fans in. Let me explain this very carefully. I'm a Liverpool fan. Do you think I want Liverpool to lose so I can get trolled more in my own comments? Because that's what these guys are suggesting. That somehow I love the negativity. That somehow I'm sitting here absolutely delighted that Liverpool are losing because I'm making more money from it. I would happily make a lot less money to see Liverpool successful and have happily done it over the course of my time on here. I love this football club. I'm invested in it doing well. I don't want other people coming into my comments to go, haha, Liverpool are shit. Opposition fans flooding in just to laugh at us. That doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is August, when we're all here buzzing, so excited for the season ahead. That's the times that I live for. That's the times that, first and foremost, I'm a Liverpool fan. I started this channel as a fan and built it as a fan. And I've always tried to be a mirror for my community's opinions. So I portray an opinion that a lot of people seem to agree with, or at least partially agree with. But first and foremost, I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm invested in Liverpool doing well because I love the city, I love the club, and I love my community. But I'm not going to stand back and be ridiculed by any of these so-called journalists. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to back down. I will never back down. So stop. Craig, you must understand they're doing exactly what Arsenal FC are doing with their PR. They don't want negativity, which to them is being realistic and not delusional. Look, nobody wants negativity. Of course not. I get that. But there's negativity and there's denying reality. And no matter how much you want to brief stuff, like I'll give you an example. Just a quick example off the top of my head. I'm sure I sent this to Connor earlier on, so bear with me. Yeah, so Ian Doyle posted earlier on, and it's a fairly innocuous post to be fair, but it said Liverpool on a run of 6 wins in 20 league games as the defending champions isn't great, but it's not their worst. In 1980, 1981, they won 6 out of 21 midway through the season with Bob Paisley in charge. While trying to rebuild a team, they finished 5th that season and won the European Cup. So the whole viewpoint of that is that Arne might win the Champions League and that anything criticising him is unfair because he's in a rebuild. Neglects to mention it's his second fucking season in charge and he's been given 450 million to improve the team. So, again, can Arsenal fans and Everton fans masquerading as journalists please stop telling us how to be Liverpool fans? Because it doesn't sit well. If you're going to lecture me on how to be a Liverpool fan, at least be a Liverpool fan yourself. To have Arsenal fans and Everton fans lecturing us on the Liverpool way and how to be a Red is laughable. Really interesting piece The Athletic posted that I wanted to get your thoughts on. But before I do, let's just get back to our poll. We asked, do you think Liverpool lack enough squad depth? And 84% of Liverpool fans or people in the chat said yes. We do think that we are lacking in squad depth. But look, I find it hard to disagree with that. We are lacking in squad depth in certain areas for sure. There was one more poll I said I'd do though, so I can't remember what it was. If somebody can suggest it back in the chat, I'll put it in. But apologies for now, my silly little brain is forgotten. A couple of super chats to get through though before I forget these as well. Need a world-class centre-half and a direct winger, said Paro. Ryan said, going to my first Liverpool game versus Brentford. That's awesome, mate. I really hope you have a wonderful time. Brentford, who are level with us on points at the minute, that feels weird as well, by the way. But it just shows you what a good job their manager has done this season, and fair play to him, because again, he was scoffed at when he was given the job, Keith Andrews, but he's done really well there with Brentford. Stargirl said, I do think whether Liverpool, it's Gakpo or not, I believe the future is to have two forwards to play alongside each other in the Premier League. Well, hopefully those two forwards will eventually be Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak. Oh, Szoboszlai contract. Thank you. Thank you, folks, for the reminder. Thank you. Right. So, what am I going to ask it? Yeah. So, do you think that Dom stays and signs a new deal? Let's see what people think on that one. He's probably one of the ones I'm most confident on staying, to be fair, because I really do think he loves the club. And I think he sees how much fans love him. And, you know, these days when we talk about him, a lot of the conversation is about a future captain. So I certainly hope he stays. James had lost my parlays on the Patriots, Celtics and Liverpool in one day. I kind of stopped betting on Liverpool in any way, mate, because the last thing I ever want is, you know, you're upset when you lose anyway, and then if you have a lost bet on top of that, it just doubles the pain. So, yeah, I feel that pain, but, yeah, sorry, man. Can you shout out my arch nemesis, Andrew? Sure. I mean, pretty cool to have an arch nemesis. I wish I had an arch nemesis. Or maybe I don't, because it'd probably take up too much of my time. David, I did miss it today, bro. I did miss it. Lovely to see you, my man. Welcome in, and thank you so much for saying hello and wishing the community well. Right. Really interesting graphic put up by The Athletic on who gets punished the most for their fouls. So this is fouls per card in 2025-2026. Who do you think is bottom of the league? So, who gets away with the most fouls before one of their players gets a card? We'll see if you can figure this one out. Dominic King's your arch nemesis. No, see, arch nemesis need to be on a similar level. And I don't punch down. I did last night because he asked for it. But I'm not going to punch down anymore. So no, he isn't my arch nemesis because he ain't on my level. That's the way I look at it. So, who gets punished for the most fouls? City, Arsenal, no. United, Manchester United, get away with 7.6 fouls before they get a card, according to the Athletics graph. Second bottom, though, is Arsenal. They get 7.4 fouls on average before they pick up a card. Liverpool, kind of lower middle half. Liverpool are in 12th. We get away with 5.8 fouls before we pick up a card on average. Now, look, every individual foul is its own thing. It isn't a case of, well, this one deserved the yellow, this one didn't. It's just an average. It's just an interesting talking point. But yeah, Liverpool 5.8 fouls per card. So the team at the top who get the least wiggle room is Spurs. Spurs only get 4.1 fouls before they get booked or a red card. Chelsea are second with 4.4. Then comes Sunderland, 4.7. Brighton and Hove Albion, 4.9. Then Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, both get 5 fouls. But yeah, Manchester City pretty much bang in the middle of the league table, 5.5 fouls per card. But you couldn't make it up that United are bottom of the list and that United get away with more fouls than others. I mean, you just couldn't make that up. But there you go. That's an interesting bit of work there from the Athletic, and fair play. To be fair, Spurs does get affected a lot by VAR. That and Romero's out there putting in mad challenges as well, like, to be fair. So, here's an interesting one, though. Squawk have put out this, and they said Elliot Anderson is the only player to win 200 plus duels in the Premier League this season. Elliot Anderson is also the only player to win possession 200 plus times in the Premier League this season. And he's way out in front on the metrics, they say. So, duels won in the Premier League. Elliot Anderson tops the leaderboard with 203 duels won. Next, James Tarkowski with 168. Nico Williams with 160. Then comes both of our centre-backs, Ibrahim Konate, who's won 154 duels, Virgil van Dijk, who's won 153. Next up was Adrian Traffert of Bournemouth, 148. João Gomez of Wolves, 147. Michael Kayode, 145. Mukalele, 143. And Dorgu, 140. So Elliot Anderson certainly leading the way anyway for duels won so far in the Premier League campaign. I want Wharton over Anderson. Can you remind me to do that as the next poll? Because it's something I'm fascinated by as well. I think, and I could be absolutely wrong on this, but my gut feeling is that we'll see Liverpool bring in a homegrown DM, which means you are probably looking at somebody like a Wharton or an Anderson. So remind me in a few minutes and I'll do a poll on which one of those two people would prefer to bring in, if any. And I'll put in an option for saying neither as well. So Peter O'Rourke had a piece that was picked up by Anfield Edition, and a couple of quotes from the piece that I just wanted to bring to you. Says, it is understood that Arne Slot still has plenty of credit in the bank at Liverpool after leading them to the Premier League title last term. Piece also said Arne Slot will be given until the end of the season before his long-term future is re-evaluated, but Liverpool board will place a serious question mark over his future if they fail to qualify for the Champions League. Thoughts? Because for me, why wait until the damage is done? Because here's what I can't get past. If you really believe in him, and he is your guy, and you've got no doubt that this season's been because of things outside of his control, then why has all the talk of a contract extension disappeared? This is something I just can't get past, because players are still being talked about for contract extensions. We're talking with Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister. We heard at the start of the season that Liverpool were about to put a new contract in front of Arne. Why no contract now? It's almost as if they don't believe in him, or they aren't sure, which again kind of makes a mockery of all the bullshit briefings saying how much credit he has in the bank. You either believe in the guy or you don't. And if you believe in him, where's the contract? It's not there because, let's be honest, you're unsure, same as the rest of us. I want to move on to talk about Mohamed Salah in a minute, because there's been a piece doing the rounds today about a potential move to the Saudi Pro League for him, and there's been some numbers mentioned as a potential contract. So I wanted to talk about that in a little while as well. I seen somebody in the chat talking about Salah's granddad. We touched on it at the start of the stream, mate. Obviously, very sad news for Mohamed Salah and his family, and we send him our love and condolences on the passing of his grandfather. Obviously, I'm sure you all echo that sentiment as well. So this piece here, posted by Anfield Edition, so credit them, said, as things stand, Liverpool are currently set to end the season on 59 points. That would be only 1 point higher than the 2010-2011 side that saw Roy Hodgson sacked mid-season. There's been a lot of pieces written comparing this season and Roy Hodgson's time in charge. Now, that in itself should be an alarming thing, that people are even finding similarities in the numbers between one manager who had Paul Konchesky, Christian Poulsen, Joe Cole, Milan Jovanovic and the ilk, and another manager who'd been given £450 million and inherited a team with Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson Becker. It's, again, that's fucking grim. If that's the comparisons that's been made, and he's worse in some metrics than Hodgson was at a time where Liverpool hadn't got two bob to rub together. Again, this is the comparability, and this is the standard. The standards at our football club seem to be a mythical thing, which are only spoken about when it comes time to make excuses. So Liverpool Football Club exists to win trophies, is what I was taught growing up. But when we don't win trophies and you complain about it, it's not the Liverpool way. Or the old Shankly quote gets thrown out there, that if you can't support us when we're losing, don't support us when we're winning. But neglect the other part about the bastion of invincibility and, you know, the important stuff. Because Liverpool Football Club didn't become the most successful club in English football by not having standards. So the Liverpool way isn't just about not sacking managers and doing all the things that make us look like we're good people. The Liverpool way is about being successful, a style of football, a brand of football, a connection between the manager, the fans and the players. And if even one of those three things isn't working, it's a problem. You know, it's a problem. And you cannot force a relationship. If it's just not there, and for whatever reason, one of those three things, and in this case, it's that relationship between Arne Slot and the fans, which some people keep trying to paint as one where everybody's happy with him. And I say this so many times. I speak to season ticket holders that attend games all the time. And I ask them not only their opinions, but what they're hearing in and around them. And I don't know many that believe in him. I know some who think he should be given the season. I'm not going to sit here and say otherwise. I do. But I don't know anybody who thinks it's going to get better. The people that think he should be given the season think so from a position of respect because he won a league title, and they think that the very least he should get is the whole season. That I disagree with, but of course I can understand. But this fallacy that everybody, you know, is in love with him because one man was standing there with one banner that everybody jumped on. And did you notice how many of the media outlets ran with that one man with one banner as a way to try to justify that Liverpool fans are all still right behind Arne Slot? It's laughable. When is the Sunderland preview out? 10:45, Elliot, mate. 10:45. It's recorded and ready to go. Jaden, Craig, but why is Arne against academy kids unlike Klopp? I don't know the answer to that question. Again, I truly don't. Look, I've always said this about any manager of a top club in the Premier League. It is very difficult for them to bring through and blood younger players when there's an expectation and a demand for Champions League football and as close to perfection as possible. So I've always had sympathy, but I can't think of one that he's really brought on since he's come to the club. he was happy to throw them all under a bus when he put out that really poor team with a really weak bench in the League Cup. When, again, he was happy to throw away that competition and then said everybody knows that this competition is one where this club uses young players. Yes, we do. But we supplement the first team players with younger players. We don't just put out a whole team, send them out there to be feasted on by seasoned professionals and not have backups on the bench. We don't just write off an entire game. And on top of that, just simple little things like him saying he's got better options than Calvin Ramsey, as an example. Well, how's that going for you now? How are those options looking right now? Because we've got no Jeremy Frimpong. We've got no Conor Bradley. We've now got no Dominic Szoboszlai for the midweek game. And Calvin Ramsey's probably looking a little bit appealing right now, Arna. But again, you've destroyed his confidence. So how's that a good thing? You know, sometimes he just needs to stop saying things. Klopp wasn't handing out Premier League games to kids. In the 9 years at Liverpool, only Trent made it as a regular. Was he not? So Caoimhín Kelleher doesn't exist then. That didn't happen. I must have missed that. Look at the Liverpool teams in the finals against Chelsea and tell me that there aren't younger players brought through there. Because this only Trent stuff is also nonsense. Jones was brought through. Nioni had started to be brought through. Stefan Bajcetic was brought in. Jarell Kwanzaa. That was probably Arna, actually, to be fair, with Jarell Kwanzaa. But yeah, players were being brought through. So I would disagree with you on that. And nobody's saying that we expect a manager to go out there and have half the team with youthful players. But Jurgen certainly did put faith in kids at times and brought through quite a few. You know, maybe not to the extent of the class of 92, but he was certainly more regular. I said regular in Prem games. I don't give a fuck what you said. We're talking about a manager bringing through youthful players. And I'm talking about the League Cup. So, regardless whether they were brought through, they were given game time, built confidence and won a title in the League Cup. So, just because you were wrong, don't try to backtrack. It's okay. Like, we all make mistakes, dude. It's grand. But I don't have all the data to hand to go back and show you every game Jurgen Klopp played a youngster in. But I certainly remember Stefan Bajcetic saving our asses. So, the Mohamed Salah thing. I wanted to bring this one up because there's a piece doing the rounds today from the Mirror that said Al Nassr are preparing a huge move for Mohamed Salah, with the Liverpool forward seen as a potential replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo this summer. Salah could triple his salary to around 1.2 million per week and become the new face of the Saudi Pro League as Ronaldo considers his future amid frustrations over transfer market favouritism. So basically, Ronaldo's been a big fucking crybaby because he still can't manage to win the Saudi Pro League. That's the truth of this. And he's thrown his toys out of the pram because he thinks that his club aren't being supported with players as much as other clubs that are owned by the Saudi or the PIF or the Saudi Investment Fund. And he's gone on strike. The lad gets paid £500,000 a day. I think has a staff of 14 or something like that. And will be even given, I think, an ownership stake in the club. And he's out there throwing his toys out of the pram because he's not good enough to win a Saudi Pro League. That makes me laugh. Because even at 41, his ego is still being bruised by his own failure. You can't win a Saudi Pro League. The league that you ran over to tell the whole world how great it was, and it defo wasn't about the wedge. Definitely wasn't about the money. But here's the thing. Why are they lowballing Mohamed Salah then? Because if they want Mohamed Salah to come in to be the new face of the Saudi Pro League, well then why is he only getting 1.2 million a week? Why is he getting 33% of what Ronaldo gets? Surely he's going to be the face of it. You know, the Muslim superstar brought in to really be the face of the project to move it forward. I think they're lowballing him. If Ronaldo's on his way out and they want him to come in, well then he should be getting paid Ronaldo money to go over, right? But just to get back to our point as Liverpool fans, what do we think does happen there this summer with Mo? Do we think he moves on this summer or not? Because in the past, it's always been when he got to the last year of his contract, himself and Rami Abasisa kind of pretty much put it out there that they aren't going to be moving anywhere in the last year of a contract. But this may be a little bit different, I don't know. Because we know that he's been unhappy this season with being benched by Arna for some games. So is it the time now maybe where all sides feel it's the right time? I really don't know how this one works out. Yeah, I don't know. I want Mo to finish the season well. I want him to start to return to the Mo that we know he can be. But I do wonder if this summer will be the time. And also what type of numbers would be involved. What would Liverpool ask for if one of the clubs from the Saudi Pro League were to come in and have an interest in signing Mo? What would the number be? 60s Red said, I think our Champions League form is due to most Champions League teams not playing low blocks and our mentality seems to be switched on in that competition. Then look at Premier League form. So your Premier League, your mentality has to be spot on for a longer time. It's an interesting thought process. I've kind of looked at it similarly, but in a different way. I always wonder, was it because the eyes of the world are on the Champions League games more so, and it's more prestigious, and the world's view on them, teams step up, and for us, sometimes Europe has been a nice little distraction from misfiring Premier League seasons. Certainly, you think back to 2005 in Istanbul, and other eras under Rafa and that, where European adventures have kind of kept us interested in a season where the league really hasn't been there for us. But even at that, this season we lost 4-1 at home to PSV Eindhoven. And they didn't even qualify for the knockout stages. See, these are the type of things that I'm saying are beyond the norm. Losing 1-0 away to Galatasaray, it isn't good enough. But it's away from home, it's one goal, it is what it is. But being whooped on our own patch, 4-1, by PSV Eindhoven, that is a level of embarrassment that I don't ever want to see happen again for Liverpool Football Club. At home, 4-1. So that's why I struggle to think that we're going to go in and win a Champions League under Arna, or with the way things are, or the mentality that's in the squad at the minute. Anything is possible, but am I going to stick the house on Arna doing it? Because it's becoming more and more difficult to get that pathway into the Champions League from league qualification this year, because, we are where we are. And one route is to win the Champions League to get back in, but I don't feel confident sticking the house on that option. There were seasons where we never lost at Anfield. I know. It's look, are there any match goers in the chat? Is there anybody in our chat right now who goes the game week in, week out, that has an opinion that they'd like to share about what they think is happening inside Anfield and what the vibe is inside Anfield? Because really, I'm all ears and I'd love to hear from you if you're in the chat. Do let us know. Klopp had 4 unbeaten years at home under us, said Keane. 30 Gee said, I go every week. Well, what's your take, mate, on what you're seeing and hearing inside Anfield? What do you think the view is, support-wise, for the manager at the minute? Let me know. Genuinely, I'm here to learn as well. Grim Reaper said, Craig, although we don't like talking about 66 here, if you knew he would slot straight back into the squad, would you take him back? I hate to say it, but we struggled defensively when he was out. See, I don't think we can have that conversation without the full context of how he comes back. Because the only way it's realistic for him to come back is for Liverpool to go and pay a big transfer fee to bring him back. And that's where my stubbornness probably kicks in as a fan, and I said no. Now, if he was on a free and he, did a nice little puff piece where He said he regret making the move. He just felt it was a once in a lifetime chance, and he thought the grass was greener and it wasn't. Blah de blah. That's maybe a different conversation. But the idea of us doing a United with Paul Pogba, where they let him go for next to nothing and then bought him back for 80 million quid, no, that I don't think is necessary or is something that I personally would be happy with. But that's just my opinion. Cat Dad said very subdued inside Anfield. Vibe is tense, but a lot of people aren't supporting the team enough, in my opinion. Look, that's been a debate that's been around even in the good times, to be fair. There's always talk of the atmosphere and stuff for particular games, but appreciate you, thank you. And anybody else, by the way, that goes to the game quite a bit that wants to throw an opinion in on the atmosphere and stuff inside, please do let us know, because, we want to hear from Liverpool fans, obviously. Been a season ticket holder for the last 5 seasons, and this is the first season where it always feels before every game, the talk in the bar and around the town is always, what is Arna going to do? And do you mean that, Luke, in a positive or a negative sense? Like, is it an uncertainty of what type of way we're going to play, or is just a fear of how bad it might be, or something like that? James Daly, how are you, James? Welcome in. Said the seasons we were unbeaten, we were a different team, and even at that, we were never great good. I always felt that under Jurgen, we were better than the sum of our individual parts. That we were a good team. And a good team always beats good individuals for me. And to do it the way Jurgen did it, you have to have buy-in from everybody. And everybody has to fully believe that when you go out there onto that pitch, that it doesn't matter who's on the other side of it. You're going to win that game. That whatever is thrown in front of you, whatever barriers are put up, you're going to knock them down. You're going to run through that brick wall and you're going to do it. You heard Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain speaking about it. They all felt like every time they stepped foot on the pitch that they were capable of anything, that they could beat anybody. And that's where that mentality monsters, I think it was Paul Tompkins maybe, I certainly know he wrote a brilliant book about it, but I think he might have coined the phrase, if he didn't, apologies, but that was earned, that mentality monsters thing, because time and time again they went to the well, they delivered, and back up against the wall, they show what they're all about. Now, for the first time, my time on here, we're questioning that mentality. And that's so unusual for us because it's not something at all that we've been used to. These guys have been warriors. Haven't been able to celebrate goals being online. I wonder how it is in the stadium, said Summat. I don't know what that means. Paul Beer said Leeds was poor. If he apologised and came back, okay, fair enough, said Andy. For me, the big stumbling block for me anyway would be the potential transfer fee. Because Liverpool got €10 million for him, and the idea of paying quite a high fee to bring him back in, it just would feel like we got double fucked, if you get me. 60s Red said, I'm old school. When You Never Walk Alone was sung, most held up scarves. Now, more don't do it. It's a shame because it's intimidating to the opposition. Craig, I'm a Scouser and have been going to the match for over 35 years. Season ticket holder for over 20. Fans are not happy with slow or as boring football, but lots won't say anything for fear of being scolded. And thank you, mate. I appreciate that, Paul. Your insight. Look, it kind of tallies with what I'm hearing from season ticket holders. Like, nobody takes any pleasure in being critical. I certainly don't. I wish I didn't have to. But this narrative that keeps being pushed by certain sections of the Liverpool media that the match-going fans are content with the situation just doesn't tally with my own real-world experience of chatting with Liverpool fans. And I mean, I'm not talking about ones that pretend they go to the game. I mean, people in my Discord that I've been chatting to for years that I know for a fact go week in and week out. Some of them go home and away, and I speak to these people all the time and ask them same questions. How was the atmosphere? What was the vibe in and around you? What were people talking about? And nobody really feels like there is that connection. With I think it is. It's not personal against Arna. It certainly isn't. But I think Liverpool fans at the minute just aren't feeling a connection with the brand of football that we're playing, or the way we're going about it. It just feels very unlike us, very bland, very unpassionate. Stephen Lucas, how are you, mate? Said, Craig, I go to the matches and the majority are losing faith with what's going to happen. They're losing faith with Slot. Anfield, not a happy place. And look, mate, it comes through. You know, you can kind of get that vibe. You know, when you're having to try to pinpoint one man with a banner as a way to say still plenty of support for Arna, front and centre of the Kop. Well, this is the same person that was pulling me up on semantics of 6th and 7th and in line with the edge of the 18-yard box saying front and centre of the Kop, but it was one man with a banner. And he's absolutely entitled to have that banner and be grateful and support Arna for the league title, but they make out like this is the perceived feeling of the entire Kop or the entire of Anfield, and it certainly just doesn't tally with people I know that go to the game. None of them want it to be personal, and none of them try to make it personal, but you can't force a connection and a feeling that just isn't there. Peter said, forever grateful for Slot and number 20. Salah is one of the greats and will forever love him. But all good things come to an end. They and Ibu must go. Yeah, the Canade one is... it's an unfortunate one is what I would say if he doesn't stay. Because he certainly has had so many good performances in the Liverpool shirt. And more often than not, he's been good. This season he's had some wobbles, but you know, maybe some of that was to do with his father. I haven't got a clue. I don't even know if his father was ill before his passing, but it just will feel like a shame if Ibu leaves. And the real reason that I feel it'll feel like a shame is because, you know, we think Liverpool is special, and we think that players fall in love with the club and the fans with the players and vice versa. And you could see that lovely moment when Virgil pushed Ibu in front of the Kop when he scored against Newcastle. And you could see that love and affection, and you could see what it meant to him. So the idea that there isn't common ground to be found for him to get a contract extension, it worries me, and it's sad. It's sad, like, because it's got to the position where so many players' contracts are running down, and the club just, I don't know, maybe they just don't think he's worth what he's asking. Again, we aren't inside the negotiations. All we know as fans is that, you know, a player that's done well for us, that's won a league title, 2 league titles, excuse me, that's, you know, won a European Cup with us, if he, I think he was in at that point, wasn't he? But done very well with us, excuse me if he wasn't in when we won the European Cup, my memory is shocking. But a player who's represented us very well and certainly been loved by Liverpool fans. It just feels unfortunate if he doesn't feel like his future should be here. We do have a poll up, by the way. We asked, do you think Dom stays and signs a new deal? And remind me, we're going to have a Mohamed Salah poll when this one finishes about his future. Slope said, I went to Anfield for the first time against Newcastle. The experience was magical, and it made me feel so happy, which I haven't felt in a while. Just want Slot to realise how much the club means to us. I think he does realise what it means to fans, to be fair. I wouldn't say that about him, but you're right about it being magical. And the Newcastle game was a nighttime game as well, and I just feel like Anfield under the lights really is a truly special place. Like, no matter how many times I've been there, every time you walk up those steps or you walk out and the pitch starts to hit your eye line and the floodlights, it is a magical experience. And I'm so glad that you got to have that positive experience of going and the lads winning 4-1 for your first game. That's brilliant, and I'm glad to hear you had a good time. Oh, yes, Anderson or Wharton. Thank you. Thank you, mate. Fair. I did say Anderson or Wharton. Thank you. Let me just end this one real quick and we'll get straight into that one then. So, 81% of people think, excuse me, I had a bit of a hiccup, think that Dom will stay and sign a new deal. Yes, I did say I'd do the DM poll. Right, so, who would you rather at Liverpool? Anderson? Sorry, I think I've spelled that one with an M instead of an N. Anderson, Wharton, or somebody else to play in the number 6 role. Sorry, yeah, thank you for reminding me on that one because, again, my dumb ass would have forgot about it. Itachi said, just read about Arna himself once out, wondering if that's the best option for Arna, Hughes and Edwards. Indicator post something, if true. F.U. Arna. Oh, I haven't got a clue. I actually don't even have the post in front of me. Unless Keane or somebody wants to send it to me, I'll be able to give you my opinion on it, but I don't know. Without trying to sound rude, however it sees him leave, I'd be okay with it. You know, if he gets fired, if he walks away, as long as it ends up in the conclusion being that he ain't the guy, I'd be alright with it. Okay, so here it is here. Said, shocking exclusive bombshell just dropped. Arna has big concerns. Insiders say he's secretly planning his move. That's a big claim. Why isn't he getting the grief I get from these journals, by the way? Because, you know, some of the stuff that I've seen some other accounts come out with is absolutely off the wall stuff. I mean, he doesn't really, at least without going into the piece, he doesn't say what, maybe, will I click into it? Is there an article attached? Let me have a look. Yeah, there is. Let me read into the piece. Oh my God, just even the name of the website, Hooligan Soccer. So let me read this one out to you. Our Anfield Whispers have delivered some concerning news regarding the status of gaffer Arne Slot. We're told the Dutchman is unhappy with his current status at Liverpool and will be reviewing his options in the coming weeks. Goes on to say a slow burn. The situation has been a long time brewing. The Dutch tactician was tasked with filling the colossal void left by Jurgen Klopp in the summer of 2024. His Feyenoord pedigree promised high-pressing, fluid football, while he terms an evolution of Liverpool's game, not a revolution. In his debut season, he was able to both walk the tightrope and thread the needle, producing magic along the way. Liverpool clinched the Premier League title with games to spare. We're building something special, he declared post-triumph. But those good vibes and winning glow have proved fleeting. The 2025 transfer window saw Slot clashing with the FSG executive board and in particular sporting director Richard Hughes. Slot's vision required players of a certain calibre and style, and none of the options were cheap. In closed sessions, Hughes reportedly responded to Slot's demands, "We can't splash like the old days." And then it goes on to say, a temporary win. Ultimately, given the club's record signings and massive investment, you would think Slot won that battle. The club broke their own transfer record twice, signing Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak to eye-watering fees. But to offset that spend, they had to sell. Slot was apparently opposed to Luis Diaz's move to Bayern and privately seethed that his request to retain the Colombian winger was ignored. Then they say a harsh reality check. Despite Liverpool's explosive start to the season, winning their opening 6 games, there was trouble brewing. 4 consecutive league losses to Chelsea, Manchester United, Bournemouth and Crystal Palace knocked them down the table, and overall form has been inconsistent. After yesterday's collapse to City, they're in 6th place with 8 losses and sitting outside the Champions League qualification. And the final part of this is where Slot stands. Slot is just over halfway into his 3-year contract, initially extending discussions that were floated after lifting the trophy have stalled. Slot hasn't Slot hasn't commented publicly on his status, but our folks inside the Liverpool system inform us that all is not well. He'll see out the season and is certainly incentivised to keep Liverpool in the Champions League either through a top 4 finish or by winning the competition outright. But Slot is also reportedly disillusioned. He believes that his style of play would be better suited to a continental side such as Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. He also believes that leaving under his own terms would give him better opportunities and he might exercise that option. Now, can you imagine if I wrote that piece or came out with that, what the journals would have to say about it? And it's another one of those pieces that leads in with one of those phrases where are secret Anfield insiders. So you'll have to excuse me if I call bullshit on that again, because I don't pay attention to anybody unless they want to stand over what they're saying. So if Anfield insiders have something to say, Anfield insiders should grow a pair, stand up and say it. Whether it's about a disagreement, whatever it is, if you got something to say, instead of potentially leaking to the media like a little coward, say what you have to say or shut the fuck up. That's my simple view on these things. You know, if these people feel so strongly, well then put your name to your opinion, or it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Slot would love to be at Real Madrid. He loves Galacticos. I don't even know if I believe that, premise. So, the phrase, we can't spend money like the old days, that was used in that article. Did I miss those days? When were the old days? Because he's talking to Richard Hughes here, who's only been at the club 18 months. So, when were the old days that they can't spend the money like they used to? That part really confused me. I don't get that. Because this was the first summer where we've really seen the club step up to back a manager. And, you know, do I think that in these conversations there has to be trade-offs or some ground given on either side? Yeah, of course. I'm sure if Arna wants X player, then to balance it out, maybe Y player has to go. Absolutely. But to feel in any way like he's unhappy with the cards he's been dealt this season or the players that he's been given, I find that difficult to believe. Is there any truth in the rumour that the GB bobsled team want Arne Slot as a coach? Yeah, definitely. True story. True story. And big money move as well. We never spent like the old days. I know that's the one that has me smirking. Like, when were these old days? I must have missed them. That article sounds like some fantasy story with the dialogue being written. Ain't no way all of this will be done in front of journalists that can and will put stuff out secretly. Yeah. Again, I don't buy it. Not this one. I'm not having this one. It just doesn't seem... I'm with you. It sounds like a fantasy conversation that somebody's conjured up in their mind. Now, what we do have to remember is that there was a piece, I think, written by... I think it was Benz, if I'm not mistaken. It was either Benz Bochak or it was Sam Maguire in Anfield Watch. And the piece did intimate that there was a clashing of heads there between Richard Hughes and Arne Slot over acquisitions and players being brought in. So... But even if that is true, right? That's not unusual. I'm sure that happens every single summer. Manager wants more players. Sporting director has to balance the budget a bit. I'm sure these conversations are perfectly normal and natural. Malik, how are you, bro? Said Craig. Hi, mate. Great show. Thank you, sir. Who would you prefer, Alonso or Enrique? Honestly, Luis Enrique. I think his style would just supplement us brilliantly. And I've never hidden away from the fact, that he would be my number one choice. Now, the likelihood is he signs a new deal at Paris Saint-Germain, but I can't lie. As much as I would welcome Xabi Alonso to the club with open arms, Luis Enrique would be my preferred choice if I could go out there and pick one of those two. But Luis Enrique not being available, Alonso was more than credible. But I have to say, even sitting here as a Liverpool fan who idolises Xabi Alonso, it wouldn't be without some risks involved, because he did so well at Bayer Leverkusen, obviously to go invincible there and win the league. But I don't hold the Madrid stuff against him whatsoever. Other people use his time at Madrid as a stick to beat him with. I just think he was walking into an impossible situation where he's already below the players with regards to the pecking order at the club. You know, normally it's owners, sporting director, manager, players. That's kind of the rundown. But at Real Madrid, it seems to be Florentino Perez, players, and whoever's unlucky enough to be the Real Madrid manager at that time until they're sacked. And if you looked at a lot of the stories coming out about his time at Madrid, the clashes were because he was trying to invoke a professional work environment where people are accountable, look after themselves, weren't partying and live the right lifestyle. So I wouldn't hold that against Xabi Alonso as a failure, because I think anybody that goes into Real Madrid is destined to fail. Nobody stays at that club for 8-9 years. Uh, Craigie, for ages been thinking we stick by slot, but fook me, you're right, it's time. But they won't get rid until the summer. By then, the damage is done. Those highs last season to these lows. And that's always been my point, Rick. I've never had a problem with people wanting to back Arna or in understanding why they want to give him more time. You know, I'm an impatient person. I'll be the first one to admit that. But exactly what you've said there, mate, has been my worry all along. I don't want to change to come when the damage has been done. And that's why I've been so adamant that an interim manager is the best way forward. Because even if you just get that little new manager bounce, or again, not to use United as another example, but it's not rocket science what Carrick has done there. He's gone in, obviously has the respect of the players because he knows what it's like to wear that shirt and win stuff at Manchester United, and he's got that respect, and he's put a bit of fire in their belly, and they've gone out, he's done the simple things right, and they've won games of football. So I think Steven Gerrard, as an example, could come in and do something very similar at Liverpool. I wouldn't want Steven Gerrard to be the long-term successor, but I do think the possibility of him coming in and getting more out of the likes of Mohamed Salah, maybe putting a bit more fire in the belly of our players, and certainly going in there and saying, I know what the pressure's like, I know what the badge is like, but I also know what these fans are like. And you go out there and show them you mean business. You go out there and leave it all on the pitch, and they will back you to the hilt. Every single one of them will sing your name. And he wouldn't be wrong. And that's been my point. Is my fear is that we're talking about this in the summer, that we get to the conclusion that my opinion was right and other opinions were right, but it's too late. And I don't want it to be too late, because we've waited so long to get here. We've waited so fucking long for Liverpool to be back where we want them to be. A season of failure wasn't on the agenda this year. Oh, and also, I'm sorry if this is going to offend anybody. I really am. And if there's anybody who doesn't want to hear some sweary ranting, warning. Enough time passed? Cover kids' ears or whatever? Fuck Pep Linders. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. It absolutely boiled my blood to see him dancing around Anfield yesterday in front of the Kop, celebrating with Manchester City. The same man that put out a book saying our identity about the style of football. He quite literally sold his soul and went to the enemy. And to see him out there laughing, celebrating, it boils my fucking blood. So to me, Pep Linders is nothing but a turncoat, and I have absolutely zero respect left for him whatsoever. I had my say about it when he joined Manchester City, and some people felt differently. And again, I appreciate other people have a different viewpoint, but that really got under my skin yesterday and really, really annoyed me. This one from James. How are you, James? So, genuinely curious, do you think missing out on Europe for one season to sort the issues out, kind of like United, would help? Or is it too important to get Europe every season? Interested in your take. Um, it is an interesting thought process and or an interesting thought experiment to work through, because one season is not going to be a killer for the club financially. It would be a dent and it would be a problem. But one season, let's just say one, where you don't have European football and Champions League money, in and itself, you could probably survive. And you could probably still go about your business and bring in some players. But I don't know. It still feels like a tough pill to swallow to get to the point of accepting that it will make it better, because it shouldn't have to come to the point where we miss out on Champions League football to make it better. Because I think if there's one thing we'll all agree on in here, it's that this team is better than we're seeing. This team is better than the results that we're seeing. And the quality of players that we have are better than the results we're seeing in the Premier League. So I don't think it's down to us not having... I do agree with the piece about squad depth. I do agree that we're lacking in squad depth. And anybody that has concerns about that, no issues with that whatsoever. But I still feel like accepting... So for me... Sorry, I'm going around in a circle here. But for me, I'm a pretty simple dude. I look at it like this. In the summer window, we moved on players and we brought in players. And almost to a man, every one of the players that have come in have been what we would have perceived to be an upgrade on the players that weren't there. So I find it very difficult to sit here and feel sympathy for a manager who has Isak, Wirtz, Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirkes given to him to improve the team and to go backwards. I find that very difficult to come to terms with mentally. That the players who were deemed not good enough or surplus to requirements were moved on, and players that everybody was excited about were brought in, and now all of a sudden we're to accept that we're going backwards and that this was in any way part of the plan. Because that's what they're trying to say now, that it was expected. It was expected of the real people. Fuck you, no it wasn't. That is absolutely not what the conversation was in the summer from anybody in any publication. Everybody was talking about eras of dominance. Everybody was talking about Liverpool becoming a bastion of invincibility, to coin a phrase again. Everybody was, that was the language being used. Now all of a sudden, we're supposed to be happy to be in sixth, or to understand that we're in sixth, and it's well, you know, this was to be expected. No, it wasn't. This revisionism is embarrassing. Slope, thank you, mate. And for people that want to say I'm toxic or negative, I'm just giving you my opinion. And is really being honest being toxic and negative? Because what is there to be happy about? Like, why should I be coming on here every day saying how great Liverpool are at the minute when it isn't the case? So how is it being toxic and negative just to have an honest opinion that things aren't good enough? Because they aren't. Nasser said, Craig, another big issue I worry about is if we wait till the end of the season and don't make top 5, I really don't think we'll get Jabi or a top-class manager. You know what? I'll be honest here and say I hadn't even joined those dots yet in my head. The idea of not being appealing to a potential manager because of a lack of Champions League football. I can honestly say, hand on heart, that's something that I've not really gotten around to thinking about. But it's something I should be thinking about, and it's something I certainly will be thinking about. But it's a fair point that you've made. I think with Alonso, we'd be okay. And look, I would hope that most managers that Liverpool would go after, or that they may go after, would understand. Like, if I was a coach and I was approached to manage Liverpool, there isn't one fibre of my body that wouldn't think that this team's underperforming and that I could get more out of them with some simple things. So you'd have to say that you think a manager would be chomping at the bit to come in and work with some of the players that we have at the club. So I hope we're still going to be an appealing prospect either way. Indie Kayla's exclusives are as useful as a soluble tampon. Hopefully we get Champions League. I'm worried we'll be watching Thursday night football and the owners are okay. Yeah, man, those, I don't want Thursday, Sunday, 2 p.m.s again. No, thank you. Yeah, look, this is where I will admit to being a bit spoiled as a Liverpool fan. You know, Champions League is Champions League and everything else isn't Champions League. It's, you know, it is what it is. There's something special about Champions League nights. There just is. So the idea of, look, I'm not going to lie, when you're in the Europa League, it might not be that appealing in the early rounds, but like any competition, when you get to the quarters, semis, you want to win that trophy, and it does become, a winning habit, and winning's good. There's nothing wrong with winning a trophy. If you're in a competition, you should try to win that trophy. I would just rather we're in the Champions League than the Europa League. David said, I worry we could lose some players if we don't get Champions League football. Of course, totally understandable, mate. I don't know, because if we're looking at, like, let's say the Salah situation, if Salah gets sold this summer, regardless of whether we have Champions League football or not, and again, I'm not wishing Mo away, I'm just using this as a jumping off point. That's a lot of money off the wage book for a start. Like, that's 400 grand a week that the club have freed up in wages on top of whatever else they receive as a transfer fee. So over the next year, we're going to lose some big earners off the wage bill. Whatever happens with Virgil or Alisson, Mohamed Salah, Andy Robertson. These are players who are at the higher end of Liverpool's wage bill because they deserve to be at the higher end of Liverpool's wage bill because, they've earned the right to have that. So there will be some, I hope, flexibility there from a financial standpoint when some of the bigger contracts move on. Because I know we as fans often get sucked into just thinking about things from a transfer fee perspective. But wages are a huge cost for any football club, and we all seen the articles this summer to show that Liverpool had the highest wage bill in the Premier League. Now, it shocked many of us, but, it is what it is. So I think moving some of those higher earners on would be the priority of the day if we missed out on the Champions League. I will wish him away for you. He's awful. Not worth 400 grand anymore. Thank you for your service, legend, but all good things come to an end. Look, it's hard to sit here and say that it's been a good season for Mo. It hasn't. And this is where I struggle, because what he's done at the football club has been nothing short of amazing. And I think he deserved that new contract. I think he earned that new contract, but there is no denying that this season hasn't gone as he would have wanted. And he's not on his own. There's been lots of underperforming numbers this season across the board. But it does feel like the summer is potentially the time where he moves on. And it could be a good fit for all concerned. And I mentioned this yesterday, but one of the things that stood out to me when Steven Gerrard was speaking about the Salah situation was the respect that he was making it very clear publicly that he has for Mohamed Salah. And at the back of my brain, I was wondering, is he saying this now because he knows he might have to coach him in a little while if an opportunity comes his way to step into the hot seat at Liverpool for a little bit? And does he want Mohamed Salah on side? Because I've no doubt Gerrard respects Salah immensely, of course. But I wonder, was it a little bit of forward planning as well when he was dropping some of those compliments? Great show, Craig. By far the best Liverpool channel. 100% behind you. Thank you, man. Means a lot. All of your support means the world to us. Thank you. Now, if you can, little favour, do hit that subscribe button for me. Drop a like on the stream as well. Don't forget about our giveaway that we're running with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner. Every month in 2026, we're going to be giving away one signed item. It won't always be a Liverpool item, might be a UFC item, but we're going to give away one signed item every single month with thanks to the Collector's Corner. All you have to do to enter, scan that QR code, join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp, and you will see all the information in there on how to enter. And also, you can get yourself 20% off anything at the collectorscorner.co.uk with our discount code Anfield Agenda 1. And of course, so tonight we are being sponsored by Surfshark, but I just wanted to let you guys know about that because, who doesn't want a chance to win a Kloppo shirt? And again, all these competitions are completely free for everybody to enter. It's our way of just giving a little bit back to our community to say thank you for your continued support. Craig, so do we all think Arno will leave the club, either resign or get sacked in the summer? Either way, or is there a chance he will stay, judging on how the board handles this stuff? It's, yeah, it's one that I've got to be honest, mate, and say I don't know definitively the answer. My own understanding was that this summer he was going to be moved on unless something drastic happens, like he does pull a Champions League win out of his backside, but I don't know. I find it difficult to believe he'll still be here in the summer. You know, even the likes of Jamie Carragher has been coming out to say a lack of Champions League qualification would probably be the line in the sand. But, you know, who knows? Who knows? Because, you know, it's up to the club how they act and what they do. I can't speak for FSG. I can only, as I say, give you my opinion. Do you think it's worth selling Maka in the summer if we can get a number 6 in? So I have to give some context to my answer. And the short answer is yes, but not for the financial reasons. So I don't think as a club we should be looking at it that if we want to bring in a number 6, we have to sell a player. But I do think there is scope in midfield to free up a central midfield position for a number 6. And I do think there is scope that we could afford to lose one of those central midfielders and bring in a deeper lying central midfielder. So whether that is Alexis McAllister or somebody else, I think we've enough numbers in the middle that it's one area that we're probably well stocked in. So the short answer, as I said, is yes, but not because we need to do it financially. I just think it would make sense from a squad management perspective because we have, let's just look at the central midfield positions. We've got Soboslai, McAllister, Jones, Gravenberch, Wirtz, if you want to say Wirtz. You've got Endo in there. You've got Nioni. You've got Stefan Bajcetic. There's no shortage of central midfield players for Liverpool. So I think we could afford to move one of those on squad-wise and not suffer too much yet. But I wouldn't be happy if it was for financial reasons, but in theory, yes. What's the story with Xhaka? No problem, mate. Let me get that one up for you. There is a few other bits I want to run through at the end of the stream here, and Jeremy Xhaka's situation is one of them. Right. So, Xhaka. Okay. So, L'Equipe, according to Davis E. Kopp, who posted this, said L'Equipe are reporting that the new Liverpool signing, Jeremy Xhaka, may require surgery to sort out a shoulder injury. This would likely mean Xhaka would not play again this season and could even interrupt his pre-season at Anfield later this year, which of course we all hope doesn't happen. Affecting his pre-season, I mean. So yeah, wait and see what happens there with Jeremy Xhaka, but it looks like he may need some surgery, and if he does, you know, will he be back in time to have a full pre-season? I certainly hope so. Footy Insider said Liverpool could be about to re-sign 23-year-old England centre-back Jarell Quansah from Bayer Leverkusen next year. They say they have a buyback clause as part of the deal that can be triggered from 2027. We've done that one, done that. I think I've gone through everything on my notes anyway. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Oh, this is an interesting one. USA Network said that it is estimated the Liverpool-Manchester City match had a global audience of between 700 and 750 million viewers compared to an estimated 220 million viewers for the 2026 Super Bowl, which again just shows you the scope and size and the draw of football and big football matches in the Premier League. 700 to 750 million people around the world tuning in. Linders is Wormtail from Harry Potter. I've never seen Harry Potter or read any of the books, so I don't get the reference. Apologies. Peter said the biggest difference between Klopp and Slot is with Klopp you always believed we could win it. Always. Any game with the kids or a poor squad. I would agree with that, Peter, yeah. Again, like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain said, you went and you've seen the team go out there and only a Klopp team could have turned around that Barcelona deficit, you know? And I would say only a Klopp Liverpool team could have turned around that Barcelona deficit without Mohamed Salah, without Bobby Firmino. And I think Robbo went off injured in the game as well, if my memory serves me correct. Andrew said, Craig, can you please give me a shout out? It's my birthday today. Personally, don't think the board have the balls to do what needs to be done, and it's going to cost us. Well, let me deal with the first part first, and happy birthday, Andrew, because, you've been somebody I've had the pleasure of meeting in real life at one of the shows, and you've been somebody who's been a supporter of our community and in with us for a really, really long time, bro. So sincerely, mate, happy birthday to you, and I hope you've had a wonderful day. Many happy returns. On the board thing and having the balls to do it, I don't know. I don't know whether it's hubris or not wanting to admit that maybe they made a wrong decision or that things have gone in a direction and they've let it slide. I don't know. It's difficult to know because Arna is Hughes and Edwards' guy. So, I can't tell you what that relationship is like between the three of them because I just simply don't know. With regards to FSG, well, you'd have to think that the loss of 100 million quid a year in Champions League revenue if we don't get European football would get their attention. But again, my point would be, why are we waiting till the damage is done? Because, again, it's still salvageable right now. But if we lose on Wednesday, or if we drop more league points, that gap to Manchester United and Chelsea is probably not going to be achievable with much more points drop. Right now, it's manageable if you can put a run together. But, they play Tuesday night, tomorrow night, and we could be going into the game, I think maybe as low as 8th or 9th on Wednesday. That's there's a world where we go into the game behind Everton, I think. Are Everton playing tomorrow? I think they're playing tomorrow. Yeah, there's a world where we go in behind Everton, for fuck's sake, that's just not good enough. We've been outrun by our last 6 or 7 opponents, and we've walked more than all of them, said Nola Eli. Why don't we just loan out Kwanzaa by selling him just to send money back, to bring him back? It ain't smart business from the club. I think I understand why they sold him, because it frees up a lot of capital. So in that time, let's say Liverpool sold Jarell Kwanzaa. Well, they only trigger buying him back if they feel he's developed enough and come on enough. So you've got the option there to do it. Now, you don't have to do it, but you would only do it if you feel he has progressed enough. And you've freed up money as well. You've brought money into the club. Yes, you might have to spend that money back out, but, he's gone and developed for 2 years. You haven't had to pay his wages, and we've brought in some money from him. So I can understand that as a decision, but 2027 is a long time away, and that's when the clause becomes active. So, we wouldn't be bringing him back in this summer by the looks of it. Craig, has anything come out on Canade and his contract, and do you think he'll sign the contract? I think that if we make Champions League, he'll sign it. He's not gone in the summer. At this point, it feels like if he signs, we'll have to overpay because it's got so late. And it would feel like he had more leverage in the conversation and Liverpool gave into a number that they might not have been happy with. That's all I can say, because I don't know. I want him to stay, but I don't think he's worth 250 or 300 grand a week. I just don't think he's there yet. He might get there, but not now for me. So if that's the sticking point, it's up to Liverpool then to decide whether they go into the market, start again and bring in somebody and just let Ibrahim Kanade leave, or whether they feel like it's beneficial to pay him a little bit more than they were initially comfortable with. Don't know. But I do know, again, it's another contract mess that we find ourselves in, and there'll be more coming up again, because Robbo's contract's up the end of this season. 2027, we've run through the list the other day of players whose contracts are up then. It's just concerning that it keeps happening over and over again, that players are getting into positions. Even Curtis Jones, Liverpool will have to make a decision this summer. If they can't agree an extension with Curtis Jones, then they're probably going to have to sell Curtis Jones because he'll have 1 year left on his deal. And even if they sell him, they're not going to get maximum value for a homegrown player because he does only have 1 year left. How is that sensible squad planning? I don't get it. Bobby is a free agent, 6-month deal maybe. Not for me. Not for me. I just don't think Bobby Firmino is still at the level that we'd need. And Isak will be back in a little, well, I don't know when, but Isak will be back at some point. So, yeah. I don't like the idea of going back with Bobby. We've said goodbye to Bobby once, and I love Bobby, and I don't want to have to say goodbye to him again. Who goes last longer at the club between Slot, Jones, and Chiesa? I'm going to guess Jones, because I think deep down Curtis Jones wants to stay, but the piece that I was reading earlier said that he wants some assurances. Let me see if I still have it here. Where was it? Was it this one? Nope. Where was the piece? Yeah, this piece here from Graham Bailey said, Curtis Jones will demand firm assurances over his long-term future at Liverpool before the summer, with the midfielder increasingly concerned that the club are preparing to move him on. So, I don't know. Let's wait and see with that one. But again, it's another player whose contract is up in a year's time. This report here from Jorge Picon said Borussia Dortmund have started to consider that Nico Schlotterbeck is gone. The report says gone. Now, they don't say they know where he's going to, but they think he'll be leaving Dortmund, at least according to that report. So look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say goodnight to you. Let's finish up this poll. We asked, who would you prefer at Liverpool? Anderson, Wharton, or somebody else? 48% of the people that voted said that they would like Adam Wharton. Anderson, 28%, and somebody else, 24%. So look, ladies and gents, preview is out right now for the Sunderland game. Reminder, that is an 8:15 kickoff, which means we'll be live here on Wednesday from 7. Connor will be here in the morning with a news roundup. I'll be here in the afternoon with a video, and we'll have a late night agenda tomorrow night as well. As always, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. And the only thing I will ever ask you to do, I never ask you to go and do my bidding for me, but if you do see people having a knock at us on social media, please feel free to stand up for our community and let them know that we aren't this toxic, negative place that they try to make us out to be. We're just fans who are disappointed and aren't happy where things currently are with the club. Right, my friends, love to you all. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.